Again, welcome to the 18th meetup of our user group. This week it is a little bit off schedule. It should have been yesterday, but because of the format change and conflict within some of our calendars, we had to postpone it for a day. I hope everybody still finds this date to be good for them. As usual, a bit about our user group. It's Dennis, Ziggy, and myself as the organizers here. We're usually trying to give you a bit of an overview of what happens in Teams, and we've actually got a lot of feedback that you guys are missing the deep dives and the more gritty stuff and the technical stuff in the last few user groups. So we try to accommodate you with this session, hopefully, to get back into the bits and pieces of what we're working with instead of being on a high level. So yeah, that's why we have this little format change. Not a hybrid today, even if it says so on the slide. We forgot to change that. I'm very sorry about that, but I hope you can forgive us for that.
At least one of us is in the office.
That's true. It's still not really hybrid though. Thanks also to our sponsor Intelity, who is providing the offices that Dennis is showcasing so very nicely on his camera. Without further ado, I think we're going to jump into things. As I said, the format is going to change a little bit. We're not going to have two presentations. Instead, the idea is to give you guys a little bit more one-on-one time with Jay, so that you're getting to know him a little bit better. You can talk to him. I think he's used to American audiences, so if you have a question, interrupt him. We're going to start with a short little interview section. I've prepped a few questions for Jay just so that you're getting to know a little bit about him, and then we're getting into his presentation. Personally, I don't even know how long you've planned it for, but we'll just go until you think you're done, and then we call it a day.
Yeah,
that's the idea here. So for everybody who loves a bit more of a clear agenda, I'm sorry, but the idea is that the last few sessions we got a lot of feedback about people wanting to hear more from our speakers, so we wanted to accommodate this and give them more room. So hope you enjoy the change, and we would be happy to receive some feedback after closing today. Okay, so I jump right in, I guess, Jay. I mean, we've done a few projects in the past together. We've worked together already, so I know what you do. But for everybody else, maybe a little introduction for you. You're an MVP, you're an MCT, you're some other MC whatevers that are around there. You have a background in all things voice technology, and you've been working with and I think for Microsoft for some time.
Yeah.
So yeah, my first question would be about the voice stuff. A lot of people, when they hear about voice and calling and stuff, they're like, "Oh, this is the devil's work. Go away." When and how did you decide that this was the road you wanted to go down? How did you come to being a voice expert?
So before that, when I got into IT, my dad was a dev for Microsoft, and he worked on Exchange. So he was one of the developers for MS Mail 2.0. And when I started cutting my teeth within IT side of things, I didn't want to fall within my shadow of my dad. So I ultimately went into UC, albeit way back when it was still live communication server and such, which was part of Exchange. I knew I wanted to forge my own way. So I started to get into unified communications like early doors. I was privileged enough to have access to alpha code of live communication server and working on it whilst I was still in high school. and worked on it basically ever since. So I got into the voice side of things in anger when I was working for a Caterpillar dealership of all things. So there's a big firm in Germany called Ziegler that does what I used to do over here in the UK. And I set up a telephone systems into OCS at the time, got to work with the likes of Nortel, Avaya, Cisco, and Microsoft headhunted me to go build out those projects within Vodafone to do the same thing, and then work for BT or British Telecom and built out their voice proposition. So over the course of the last, since like 14, 15 years, probably enabled probably close to 500, 600,000 users using voice and using voice as a collaboration tool within Teams and Skype and Link and OCS.
Okay, so you've got access to some internal code while you were teenagers there.
Yeah, I wrote it. It takes it to make it even more interpersonal. I used to date a girl in England, and the reason why that code went in is because I got tired of like emailing because it was way too slow. So those of you long enough in the tooth remember an IM platform called ICQ. And so I reverse engineered ICQ and built my own little server, run it on my desktop that allowed me to instant message. And my dad was like, "What's that you're doing?" So I created my own little IM platform because everything else was just taking way too long to get to do messages. Yeah. So
it's amazing. And so then you had, with your father working at Microsoft, had that an effect on you with you wanting to join there, or was it pure separately from that one?
Yeah, so I originally wanted to be a veterinarian. So I was about 3.5 years in with vet school and started studying and doing all that. And I said to my dad, I have to get out. I'm done. And it was way easier to get a computer science degree than it was to finish my veterinary because I've got to stay in for another 3.5 years. So I just swapped majors and got out. And my dad told me, he said, if you come out, I'll get you a really nice job at Microsoft. And I'll get you a nice corner office. And I thought, this is sweet. I'm going to have like some corporate vice president role. But no, he got me a job in the mailroom at Microsoft. And I had to work my way up just like everybody else. I like delivered post and help people around the office with like technical queries. And then they're like, wait a second, you know some technical? I was like, yeah. So I ended up going and joining PSS and product support services and working for premier customers. Worked for the likes of after that went to Microsoft Consulting Services, and then after MCS is when I moved over from the US to the UK, kind of circa 2002. So it wasn't originally IT. I was going to go and specialize in horses and in aviaries with birds and such. But yeah, it's completely polar to what I started off my career as.
I mean, that's the fun of IT, right? You can always just jump in basically if you have an interest and learn what you need. So you've been in the UK since 2002.
Yeah.
Was that switch still with Microsoft, or did you move there just for another reason?
So I was supposed to transfer over, but they misspelled my name, so I never got any of the emails. So I was like, fine, if I'm moving, I'm moving. That's not changing. But I didn't come over and join Microsoft natively. No, I worked with Dell for a while. Worked for a couple of financials as a contractor for a while, and after that, that's when I joined up with Finning, the Caterpillar dealership. Worked there for about 6 years. So no, originally I would have liked to. But no, they couldn't get my name right, so they're lost ultimately.
Oh man, that's great. So I've heard that you told me that earlier that you just got your British citizenship. So that just took 21 years to get, or did you not start early? Did you not start at some point later?
You'd think it'd be relatively easy, but you have to know that you can't go and smack somebody with a pint glass over here, and you have to know that how different. We've got all sorts of different. It's very, very traditional is England, and you have to pass an exam, and it just took me that long to spend the time in the headspace to go and take this living in the UK exam. So yeah, I finally did it, and I'm sure Germany is very, very similar to the UK with different immigration offices, but you get all different walks of life, and not all of them are Microsoft Teams MVPs. You get a whole lot of different people. So it's the whole immigration process is unique, and yeah, finally, and something else I've done as well. So it's been a busy year for me. I also took up riding motorbike. So I've successfully put about 1,500 miles on. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but about 2,500 kilometers on motorbike in the last month and a half, which is quite good because the weather in the UK is really bad. But it's been good. That's been a big change for me as well this year, is being free on two wheels.
That's awesome. I mean, you mentioned Germany as a similar process to the UK. I think if we're talking about Germany, there's it's Germany. Bureaucracy is everywhere. So
yeah,
I'm pretty sure the UK is similar to that. But I know one thing: in Germany, after you've married, you wouldn't have had to take the test anymore.
yeah.
So
I've been married my whole time here, and the answer is still yes. You still have to sit it.
yeah, I mean, I think I had in my notes when we talked earlier that you just got married.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
so
year ago, or
a year
13
ago.
months ago.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
so
I'm
congratulations to that.
I'm fortunate enough to be working alongside her, which is why I've got these UC headset on with the noise canceling head beaming, the sound beaming on either side, so it picks up what I'm saying, and hopefully you can't hear what Holly's saying. But yeah, it's it's interesting because I suppose a lot like people that work hybrid. When you're working from home, it tends to be relatively quiet. You get the likes of, children running in and the dog running in, and we've had a separate office now for about ever since COVID, when lockdown within the UK happened. We built out this office that I'm in now, and I've only recently started to build out my entire UC platform that I've got in here. I've got multiple MTRs and such. But even still, being able to have her here and present is really, really nice. And I don't, you guys don't have the same kind of thing, but we get tea overload. I get British people love their tea, right? So now I've diverted for, now that it's coming up to 5 o'clock. I've moved over to non-tea for the time being.
I mean, tea or a pint. I think that's pretty
Yeah,
pretty much what you're getting in the UK, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's amazing. Congratulations on your
Thank you.
marriage, even if it's been a little over a year. But yeah, we didn't always
It's
have that
still
much
fresh.
contact. It's still fresh, yeah. But those weren't the only changes you went through. I mean, when we picked up the call a few weeks back, you grew out your beard. You decided to do that one.
Yeah.
I mean,
Taking it back to my Norse, to my to the roots. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I mean, to me at least, more impressive thing. A good beard is great, but you've lost about 40 kilos.
It's probably about 45, 50 kilos now. I'm starting to put it back on, but I'm bulking up rather than losing weight now. I had surgery done, something called a gastric sleeve. So they removed 80% of my stomach. So now I get an excuse to live like a Texan, if that makes sense. So the portion size isn't this big, but I can just allocate everything to protein. So I eat a lot of protein now, which is like great for me. It probably isn't too bad for the German way of living either, I wouldn't have thought. But yeah, it's good. And I was what was I doing last night? I was doing some squats. I was 194 kilo. So it's just still bulking up quite good. I just need to keep at it and keep going, and just keep working on it, really.
Yes, it's an impressive number.
Yeah, it's going well. I just need to find that routine, right? Just like there's a lot of like saying this, a lot of people on this call, you when you're chained to a desk, you get no movement. And I've got two border collies at home. I would love to use them as an excuse to go out, but customers and things just come first, and it's always a case of trying to highlight it and trying to find that work-life balance. And I'll touch on my slide deck. I've got 5 kids as well, so like trying to find that right pace and that right thing is near on impossible. However, one of the things that came out of my wedding was the to learning to dance. So tonight, Holly and I are going to go do some what are we learning right now? The cha-cha, the foxtrot, and the quick step. I've just been informed. So we're working on all those things as well. So just continuously learning and developing. And one of the things you'll find is like I don't sit still very long, not physically or mentally, and I want to keep going and driving. And that's one of the things that helps keep these things working, like presenting to your user group, or understanding what the next technology is, or how does AI implement it, and what happens with voice in AI and Teams and meeting rooms in AI, all these really cool things and these advancements. And I've always been really keen on doing that and keep going, and just like the weight loss and all that type of stuff, all of it kind of comes into all of that, where you just get, you know what, I don't want to be tired anymore. I don't want to be, weighing in at like 100. Well, I don't even know what it is, like 110 kilos. I don't want it that anymore. I want to keep cracking on and keep working on it and be the better person that I can be.
I mean, sounds like you did a lot of positive changes in the last year, which is amazing for you. And
it's been a phenomenal 12 months.
Yeah, I'm glad you had that experience. I mean, it's not all great. I mean, you lost your job earlier in the year, so
yeah.
But as you said, you found a new job. I think I saw you wearing the shirt of them. So
yeah. So I work now for Carillion, and Carillion we just opened an office. I'll have to find out where it's located at in Germany. But we are I still do voice on my own time, but I'm fully in on Teams meeting rooms now and meeting spaces, and that's going to tie in heavily within what Microsoft Places is going to be, and it's going to tie into like the AI contextual information. So I'll look at and say, Dennis and Jan are both in the office. Do you really think, how about going to Nuremberg and have a meeting with them? It's like, so it ties into those type of things. Well, when you sit down at a desk, you want it all to work. You don't want to show up and like your equipment's not there, or you need to book a meeting room. So I'm working with Microsoft to see what the next version of what hybrid working is going to look like to do that. And so that's what my job enables me now, is to go and have some of the cool, I've got Jabra kit, Yealing kit, Logi kit, and be able to look at it, understand how it all works and ties in together, and how that, and one of the things I'll go through in the session today is like, how do I make sure it all works? Like, how do I validate that this is working the way I expect it to, and how does that all tie in? And we'll keep it relatively fluid. And as long as people are willing to raise their hand or pop a question in the chat, as long as if it's in German, I'll have to see the translate it, but we'll go from there and see how everybody feels about it.
Yeah, sure. We can definitely do that. I'd also be fine if you feel okay with that, opening the floor if anybody just has a question for Jay. Just want to ask him something like about his past career, professional stuff. Remind him, hey, we've met at Convention X. I don't know anything. Ask him about past experiences that he worked on, projects he worked on. If you want to do that, feel free. So that's if you want to know anything. Otherwise, I think we're going to just jump. We're giving everybody a minute to collect themselves, and then we'll jump into your presentation, I think. So if you want to start the sharing, you can go ahead and set everything up, and I take over or you take over from there.
Just want to say it's amazing that you've lost so much weight and you changed your whole attitude, bringing up the motivation, the positivity. I think that's really amazing. So
hey, thanks, man.
Wow.
I appreciate it. I won't lie. Having I don't know how to, was it Freud? Is that how you say woman in German? Fraulein, Frau.
Frau.
Again, it's like absolutely massive, right? Having somebody that is willing to motivate you and support you and push you makes a massive difference. I'm trying to be clever here, but she ain't playing ball, so let me see what I can do.
And I already have a question later for the open round. I'm really curious about what you think how AI will play into voice communication in the future.
So I can tell you what I know, and then lose my MVP. But I don't.
No, maybe not from the solutions that are coming next.
Yeah.
I was thinking about a broader perspective of what do you think, or how would you like to see AI being used in voice solutions in the future? So what
Yeah.
could be the step number 2, 3, and 4 after the first solutions we are already seeing nowadays with agents and automation? Maybe there's something behind the steps we are seeing right now. What do you
Yeah,
think?
you're seeing that convergence already. So I did a session at the National Computing Museum like 2 weeks ago, and a lot of these slides that I've used there. But I saw a really cool session run by a fellow MVP called Tom Morgan, and Tom was tying in something called ACS, which is Azure Communication Services, and tying that into AI. And then he was pointing it to the museum's website. So it'd go and index their entire website, and then it would go back. And so he called up, it gave some introduction, Guten Tag. I got thank you for calling the museum. And he was asking it questions that he knew it would know. So he said, "What time are you open to?" And it would go away for a second and come back and says, "We're open till 5 o'clock." And then he asked it if it was okay to bring a rhinoceros into the museum. And it is like, no, you can't bring any pets into the museum, because it had that on the website. And then he asked it to write a lyric over computing. And it took it a second, and it just started doing like writing a song to go along with what he was talking about. So like the intelligence that we have available to us is like growing, but it's not growing a little bit. The growing is like exponentially faster and faster and faster. So it is absolutely flying through the ability of what we're being able to transition. And some of the really clever stuff that we're going to see off of dev, and particularly Copilot within the dev industry, is going to change things, because we'll be able to see code being created at like lightning pace. We'll be able to some of the Power BI stuff that I'll try to show you is good. But what if I want my own customized dashboard? I could take Copilot, tie it into the Power BI, and create my own dashboarding within minutes. And so it's taken Microsoft like a year and a half to get what they've got. If I can go and create that same thing and that information from the back end and pull all the stuff from Graph API to have it, that's like wickedly clever. And so we'll see a lot of that coming through. And the same thing where those of you who stay afloat with the Microsoft Teams Premium, we're already getting it. So I can do real-time translation, real-time dictation. I can see those type of things I can see what's happening within the meeting. I can find out afterwards, is there anything that's happened to me within the, and again, the same thing, I can ingest my calls into SharePoint and have it interrogate the calls within it and say, what happened? What was going on? Where did communication break down within that call? Like literally, like all of a sudden Jason starts speaking a completely different language. It's like, well, he lost it. And it realized that between your voice analytics and everything else that's going in it, will start calling out what's happening within that call, or whether or not it was a good call or bad. Or I can go and interrogate the data behind it and find out if it was technically a good call or bad call. I can also start looking at it from a perspective is, did he actually do what he should have done? Did he meet all the quality assurances that he should have had, and all those type of things? It's growing.
Mhm.
It's like astronomically growing.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
So, hello. So what I'll do is I'll pick some particular bits out of the slide deck, keep it really fluid. Raise your hand, drop a question in. The guys can translate if you're not comfortable in speaking in English, and we'll go from there. So So
Yeah, this is not a question for you, Jay, in the
I
chat
saw.
right now.
I assumed it wasn't.
Just letting you know.
So a bit about me. I'm a 6-year MVP. I've got like I said, I've got five kids. I got 2 boys and 3 girls. The girls are actually easier than the boys, which is saying something. Originally from Chicago, and I grew up in Dallas. I'm not your typical Texan. I always say my views are much more liberal than they ever were when I was living in the United States. I run a user group called MSCUG. We run out of London, run it out of Birmingham and Manchester. And then Steve and I haven't done a lot of things probably since COVID, but we used to run a really successful podcast called All About 365. And our height, we were probably about 53,000 listeners a week. So it wasn't bad going. And one of the things, I always try to put an anecdote in there. So something to help remember who I am, and is that I met Harrison Ford, and the second time he remembered who I was. So I was doing all my MCSEs and training up, and I was working at a movie theater up in the booth where they have the projection. And the great thing about working that role is like every 2 hours, you have a break. You got like a massive break. So I would just read and study, and then he came up to the booth and wanted to see how that was all working. I think it's during a film called Patriot Games. It was on the premiere, and he said it had an introduction. I went on a family holiday a couple of weeks later, and actually it was a year and a half later, and he came up to me in a fly fishing shop and said, "Hey, aren't you that guy from Texas?" So I was remembered by the good Han Solo. So kind of going over understanding Teams voice, understanding how we could do it in the meeting rooms, and how do we ensure the success of it. One of the things that I find, and particularly when we're doing voice deployments, is we don't always have a good understanding as to what the quality of what the meetings are. And there may be times where I want people to understand and grab some statistical information. So it's probably worthwhile. I mean, how many people actually, a quick show of hands, I suppose, or a quick understanding is like, do you guys do a lot of voice out of Germany? Like what's the uptake of Microsoft Teams voice out of Germany? Do we know?
Not the numbers, but we do get quite a few requests, especially in connection with meeting rooms and stuff like that as well. When they're trying to set up new things in Teams, they inevitably come across the calling functionality. Some try to implement it. I mean, I'm coming from a voice background, so my projects might not be the best. I have a lot more contact with customers who are using voice. But yeah, I know at least Skype for Business, when it was still with the Cloud Connector edition, that was used a lot, and I think a lot of people just switched over to Teams from there once it's there. I mean, with the phones and stuff like that.
So this is the Microsoft Teams Admin Center, and so I control everything within my Teams environment through this Admin Center. And so what I've got going on right now is I'm utilizing direct routing to get Teams into the PSTN, into Microsoft telephone services. And if I want to see whether or not a user is working or not working, a really easy and fast way is to come within here, and I can scroll down to myself and find Jason. And I can find out whether or not Jason's working or not. I can see what his history is, what his call quality is, all the activity. But we now got this cool button right here, see view active meetings. And within this, I can find out how many meetings are in flight. So I can see right now that I joined in and we got 10 participants in the meeting. I can go in and see the real-time analytics of that. Now that could be a meeting, that could be a phone call. I can start triaging what's going on and how things are behaving within it. And hopefully, if the network is working well, if we start getting it is, I can see what my network looks like. So right now, between me and Microsoft, I'm getting 5% milliseconds with a jitter and no packet loss. It's like, that's huge, right? Before, I would have to go and see the historical information and not understand what's going on. Likewise, I can see how I'm connected up. I can see I'm wired, what my IP address is, how I'm connected, what type of information stream I'm having through it. And if I'm doing screen sharing as well, I can see what the round trip time, what the bit rates are, how many frames per second we're outbound. Wow, it's only 2 frames. Here's it. Let me see if I can do. Let me see if I can do a Brucey bonus for you guys. This is an uplift that you guys want. Control Shift Alt and T. Let's see if it changes. There you go. So I can see the round trip time's going up, and I can see so that enables me to have faster video rate. So if you, I think it's Control Shift Alt and T will go and enable you to have a faster refresh rate. So things I'm doing on the one screen is faster than it used to be. So I can see here that what's going on and how things are behaving and how the overall environment's working, and I can see how it's playing out. If I wanted to go back to that and see historical information or start looking into it, I go back into Jason Wynn, delve into this, and then go and say meetings and calls. And I can see all of my historical calls that I may have had within it. So past meetings, current meetings, and all the meetings I've ever attended in the last 30 days. Likewise, all of your PSDN calls will show up in that as well. And that's how you would look and see it. So that will give you an understanding of how you can look at your environment. Is it working well? Is it not? What's happening with it? Another place to check out is called CQD. This is a call quality dashboard. And CQD will give you a holistic view of what the overall organization looks like. So call quality dashboard will show you everything there is from like a high point of view, and it give you the trends, how things were looking, how things are behaving, how things were looking for an organization as a whole. So I could see that the monthly streams were poor back in March, but they settled down again in November. And October looks good as well. And I can find out how things are behaving the way we want it to within that. Does that make sense? Within that as well, I can break things down to network lookup. So I can, instead of a summary report, I can go to location and I can start looking at what the location looks like for everywhere. So if I put in, I only got one subnet, so it's not very useful for me. But if I have multiple subnets, I can start looking at what all the access points and how they're behaving. I can start looking at all the classifications within it. And the other one that's really, really useful as well is something called endpoint reports. And with endpoint reports, I can start understanding whether or not the actual laptops and desktops and how they're behaving. I could grab stuff from Intune and ingest it in here, seeing what the driver levels are and how that works. But the really cool one that I've got is the Power BI tooling. So here's one that I opened up earlier because it is very resource hungry, is Power BI. So my life, like I said before, is all around MTR stuff at the minute. And within that, I have this tool now. So Microsoft created a series of Power BI dashboarding. So you have to have a Power BI license to be able to use it. And once you have the Power BI license, you can sign in, set up. You have to ingest a connector into your local machine to be able to query against Microsoft Graph. But after that, I can start going to all sorts. I can start reviewing what your different environments look like. So this one's around MTRs, but you can look at how is my auto attendance, my call queues looking, how are things behaving for the likes of users, and what's their usability, what's my subnets, my network environment, all that type of stuff you can start ingesting this from. And I did a bake-off with a third party. It's interesting. I got more questions afterwards about how I can use the native tooling than the paid for stuff, because all this is free. So I can go inside this tab and then I can start querying it back, and it's pulling all the latest information from Microsoft Graph, and it'll tell me what's happening. So if I have bad video calls, or my refresh rates are bad, or things aren't working the way we wanted to, we can start querying through all this stuff and it'll start propagating through. So if I can start seeing how many minutes my actual organization is using Microsoft Teams rooms, I can start organizing what's down to the network level. So what's my overall network look like? And this will be interesting because the last week and a half, I've gone from a ADSL line, which is a 50 meg, to a gigabit network at home. So let's see, let it propagate through, and hopefully we'll see that everything's going great. So I can see that's my old subnet, that's my new subnet, and how things are behaving and how things are going. So we get good video streams, everything's looking great. When we have bad ones, we can drill into it. So if we have a bad audio quality, a bad experience, and things aren't working the way we wanted to, we can drill into those calls and those things and drill into it and understand how things are working, and are they working the way we want it to, or things not, and we start pulling it back. So like those are the main ways of understanding, am I getting everything I want out of Teams? Is it working the way I want it to? I'll use the Microsoft Teams Admin Center as like a first port of call to understand how things are behaving the way we want it to. So I come in here, so we go back. So I can see, is Jason Wynn working the way we want it to? I can go into his active calls and find out what's going on with it. So if we go into this, it's actually quite powerful as this. I can even go and find out what participants, if I've got admin rights within it, I can find out who the participants are in that meeting right now as well, how things are working and how things aren't. And what if somebody calls me and says, I've got executives on the call and things are not working the way we want it to, then we can go figure it out. Which is interesting. I'm not running a Windows 10 device, I'm running a Windows 11 device, but obviously that hasn't changed. Again, if I want to see how my business is working and the organizations I support are working from a holistic viewpoint, CQD, find out how it's behaving in the organization. Somebody may call up and say, hey, we expect it to be, everybody's got a really rubbish experience. Well, I'll call out there, there's a report in here that's I may have removed it. It was like an emotional response one. It was like, how happy are our end users? And that one's always interesting, particularly in Britain, because when Teams, like every 10th call by default will query up how happy you're with this call. That gives you from 1 to 5 stars. In England, it's always 1 star because nobody ever says somebody's doing good. They're way more likely to complain than they will ever be able to tell you that things are running great. They won't tell you that things are going good. They'll only tell you about the bad experiences. And then if I need to go into the minutiae detail, I'll pull up Power BI and I'll trawl through the information. I can find out way more information and let it interrogate all that. But I think in the near future, we'll see some of this Power BI stuff taking on all the AI, and I can go and grab code from GitHub and start ingesting that in and pulling that information down, create my own dashboards, things that are relevant to me, or start triaging it, or just tell Copilot, I want to create a Power BI dashboard that tells me what my call quality is on this particular MTU, and just start pulling all that down for me and how to pull it all in. So like we're on a convergence right now. We're on the cusp of seeing some really amazing stuff. Just that we haven't built it yet doesn't mean that Microsoft haven't. They have built it. It is coming. But again, it's just we're just on the cusp of being able to pull all that stuff in. So yeah, I haven't run this query. Let's see what happens and see how it pulls through. But like use this opportunity now to like ask any questions, anything you guys can think of, any problems you're having, or almost use it as an AMA to say, hey, I got this. And it doesn't have to be just around voice. If you got anything to do about any sort of collaboration piece, by all means, shout and let me know. I'm happy to help out and do whatever you guys may need.
I mean, when that's done querying, I'd love to see you drill down on one of those calls just to see what it looks like, even if it's a perfectly fine working call and we're just seeing no errors or anything, but just to see what it looks like, to get an overview of that would be great.
I'm running this on a Core i7 with 32 gig of RAM, and it's still not fast. Let's do this one overview again.
Is it so much load on your local machine?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Wow.
Probably doing a lot of queries, right?
Yeah. I've tried to load Task Manager now, and it's just not his Task Manager. You know, it's bad when you can't get Task Manager up.
97%, yeah.
Yeah, it's chewing through the memory. And then, yeah, you just have to have patience, right, with Power BI. And delve through something to see. Try to find something useful. Well, let's do that. Let's do this. Trying desperately.
I guess that's what those big
This is
machines in the cloud are for, right?
Yeah, if I'm not hosting this in Azure, that'd be even then. I don't know how fast the queries are. I did ask him the other day. So for those have you guys ever seen the Pro Portal? There's a Microsoft Teams Pro Portal you can get to start managing and maintaining your information. And I asked them yesterday, can I have these Power BI dashboards ingested into it? And they're like, we never thought of that. I was like, how could you not think about not getting that as part of it? Surely that'd be the really useful components to be able to do that. I'll show you whilst this is loading in the background, I'll show you. I'm trying to. I played with this tab now, it's not happy. So you go to portal.rooms.microsoft.com. And so what this is, ooh, everything's dying. What portal.rooms.microsoft.com will allow you to do, when in doubt, swap machines, right?
Full load on the RAM and the disk probably.
Yeah, I've got my other machine running, so I've got a KVM between the two, and I've got my other one up, my other machine on standby, ready to go if this doesn't work. So hang on a second. Here's what I created earlier. So within this, with this tool, I can go in and same thing. Let me not stay there. Sign out. And with the Pro Portal, I can start managing and maintaining everything I can see in my view. But within that as well, I can go through and raise tickets and raise incidences I may have. If I've got reporting going on, I can see, I can start planning things out within it as well. I can look at my rooms. And again, I can look at everything that's happened within that. And so I may have opportunities where I want to see quickly at what's going on with my environment. I may want to go in and quickly change settings within it. So I can go in, change any information on it. I go activity and find out how long it's been. And on top of that, I can get really quick reports from here as well. So this is what happens when Microsoft run all the Power BI stuff in the background. I can see where all my faults have been working and where I've had problems with my environment really, really quick. So I can see what the room health have been like from a viewpoint for a couple of weeks, how many tickets, the average amount of tickets, and understanding here's one for you that I still haven't yet figured out, but Graham Walsh pointed this one out to me. If you look at the overall amount of uptime that we have, the Android stuff stays up way better than the Windows stuff. So I get 89 on the touch panel and 96 on the Android, but my Microsoft Teams room only stays up 73% of the time. So it's interesting that I get way more faults and way more problems on the MTROW stuff than I do on Android. But again, I can quickly see what's happened within the environment, understanding the health of the rooms. and understand that how the overall environment looks. Now, caveat, I have to have a Microsoft Pro license for this to work. And I don't know what it is in euros, but it's like 40 US for per room per month to have it. You can go and try it, go get demo tenant, demo license and trial license to be able to do it as well, and play it from there. So that's like the key, without drowning you. And say hi to Siggy, everybody that's walking past Dennis. Without understanding and delving like back into the slide deck, that's the key components really of what I want to show you today, is like to take you through that overall pieces to see how Microsoft is working within that, what they're working towards, and making sure we have everything that we need to do within the demo suite to be able to showcase what we want to be able to do, and also give you the opportunity to look at how is how is things working, how are things behaving, and then take that as well as I want to be able to have people use it, but I want them to use it under a good experience. But hopefully some of you guys be willing to ask some questions and pull things through and let me know what anything that you got, any problems you're experiencing, how do you do this, how do you do that. I'm 100% happy to load up and showcase what it is and how we can do it and how we can manage those things as well.
Especially with the meeting rooms, I wish Christian was here. He's currently setting up a lot of those rooms for one of our customers. They, as far as I understood, they use the Pro portal for some of the reporting stuff, but yeah, I think they, if I understood correctly, they had a bit of an issue with when they had rollouts in 3 zones globally, and they had to coordinate a lot of that stuff, make sure that the devices actually came online at the specified times and stuff like that. So
I can show you that one if you want. So within that piece, what you can do is say I want to have it so I can see where things are working and where things aren't. So I can add rings into it, and so I can say which ones I can have computers in staging. I can have some computers that are working in general, and then I may have executive rings. So think of it like where those of you familiar with Intune, I could do the same thing. So I can say, I want these to patch first. I'm going to use those as my test bed. And then I'm going to have a general usage that once I validate that the patches do what I want them to do, it's not going to break anything. I can make it do it. And then I'm going to have a third ring, the executive ring. And what happens then is it takes even longer for it to be updated. So I really want them to be away from the bleeding edge because I want the executive equipment to always be on and working. So that's how I would do it. And again, you can put this into groups as well. So I can go and set it up so the machines are set up. So I may have, Leipzig is one group and Munich is another group and Berlin is another group. And I can go and manage these rooms how I want to be able to do it within that. So I could do it by geography, or I could do it by role, or I could do it down to hardware if I want to. If I want to create a hardware group, to patch everything Poly first and then Logi and then Yealink, or however I want to do it, you can chop that up however you want. It's exactly the same way as we could do with Intune. But now we're still using Intune in the back end, but all the cosmetics are all on Teams.
It's really cool. I mean, it's helpful to have that staging capability. I haven't done much with meeting rooms myself, but I know every time you have to set one up, it's going to be some kind of hassle with them at some point. And that seems like at least a little bit of a
Tom Arbuthnot dropped one the other day that hit Message Center, and they're about to introduce a coded method of provisioning MTRs. So what you do is you get a one-time code that will drop into so when you plug in your device, as long as the device is running 4.19 upon a new installation, what will happen is say, give me your one-time code if you got it. You type that one-time code into it, and then that will start provisioning that device to the configuration you want. So it takes a lot of the headache. It'll join it to the right groups that you pre-provisioned, so you can do things ahead of the game. So those of you who ever use Meraki, it's kind of like doing that. So I validate and sanity check what that device is, add that code to it, And then from that day forward, it's known and it pulls around the right policies within it. And obviously, if you wipe it, you can get another one-time code and put it into a different space. So you can almost pre-provision things ready. So that way you have that one-time code. So when you log on to it for the first time, you give it the code and it brings it into it and grabs all that config that you want to be able to have. So that should be dropping pretty soon. It's gone on the message center now, so you can start seeing it. Because one of the problems we always have is sending an engineer out. They're not wholly sure how to do it. It'd be a lot easier if I could just give them, a 10-digit string of numbers and letters. They go in and run with it. It makes their lives a lot easier.
Yeah, instead of having to travel from location to location as an
Yeah.
engineer, trying to get them all back up and running or getting them up and running in the first place.
I could. It's a lot easier for me to get somebody that's skilled up on like applying the panel, the TV to the wall, that understands that those type of guys are really good with their hands, but you don't want them to log on to your Teams admin center, and I would much rather be able to give them a code to type into the console that does everything we need them to do. And that just bridges that gap a lot for MTRs to be able to do it. Like I said, that should be landing, I think, Q1 of next year. I think it's already been rolled out in rings where some of us have got the latest version of it working, so it's all go. So there's some really cool functionality that'll be added into Microsoft very, very shortly. Some stuff that we haven't had, that competitors have had, that they're bringing into it. Some really cool technology that's being brought of it. And again, we were talking about AI earlier. I'll have the ability to go into it and pull down everything that's happening with the meeting. If I have a Teams premium license, I can go in and get all the analytics, what's going on within it. Shortly, what you'll be able to do with Teams as well is have it do facial recognition. So it already does voice recognition to know that it's you, but soon it'll do like how Windows Hello works. I'll be able to walk into a meeting room and it'll go, it's Jason. And it knows, and it'll highlight me. And inside my IntelliFrame, it'll have my name underneath me without actually having to do anything to it. Now, you have to turn that functionality on. I know there's different legalities, but depending on which country you live in and all sorts about whether or not where that information is held or what's going on. But if you live in a very liberal country that allows you to have whatever you want, wherever you want, then you can easily have that turned on. It recognizes your data of your face, it logs you, it tells you that's you, and you can join in. And then there's the new stuff as well that's coming around with Surface Hub. So those of you who have deployed Surface Hubs in the past, Surface Hub 2 will soon be able to become a Surface Hub 3, and that's coming as well. The ability to, they were calling it a cassette for a while. Now I think they call it a different, like a compute module. And if you have a Surface Hub 2, you can pull out the whole CPU unit on the back of it, insert a new one. That instantly becomes a Surface Hub 3, so you're not losing the investment you have within the existing panel. The small time upgrade to it. And what they're going to be doing is turning all Surface Hubs into a MTR. So if you have Surface Hubs now, you can go to the App Store or the Microsoft Windows Store and grab the update that tells the Surface Hub that you want to turn into an MTR. So you can start turning your Surface Hubs into MTR devices and managing it, maintaining it the same way you do like a traditional MTR device. So like the whole world is like slowly moving towards that. Even Cisco now make certified devices that run on Teams, and so you can start analyzing and finding out where it's going. So all the manufacturers are moving into that world, and we're seeing more and more of it. And like we were touching on before, hybrid working is going to be a massive part of where we see future work. And they think that the amount of investment that we have globally in Teams and Teams rooms is going to grow by 5 or 6% between now and 2025. So it's like it's not a question of if, it's a question of when we're going to start thinking at these things bigger and bigger and bigger.
But when you turn a Surface Hub into an MTR, aren't you losing the full sign-in capabilities and the capabilities to open Word and Excel files and work on them directly on the Surface Hub?
No, they're even bringing a third part into it. And this is the one I don't necessarily agree with, but you got a very, very good point. So Surface Hub right now works in a stateless way. So I walk up to it and I join it and I can compute on it. And when I say leave meeting, I lose it all, right? If I haven't saved it in the Teams or shared it with other people, it's stateless. So if somebody goes and steals that device off the wall and thinks they could plug it in and have an 85-inch TV to watch the football, that's never going to work. But if I go to MTR, I still have the functionality of an MTR device, but they also now have the ability to make it into a Windows device. So if I have the right licensing applied to that MTR, I can then have that as a personable endpoint as well. So I can almost make it into a desktop for me to be able to do what I want to be able to do on it, as well as being an MTR device. So they thought about that enough. I quite like it being stateless, but when there's examples where I need it to be a meeting room, but I also need to be able to have it work within my documentation and my content. That's part of it too. So I can run it on an enterprise license, on like a Windows 11 enterprise license, and be able to have it be a fully functional machine and PC, and then also have it be a MTR as well.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, it's all go. So it certainly looks really, really impressive. Must be more questions than just the end.
Well, I was wondering how your Power BI which screen is coming along. There's actually a question in the chat right now, so let's go with that first. The question about remote access to a meeting room on Android devices. On Windows, I install TeamViewer and can see what happens. On Android, it does not work. Individual OEMs build their own solutions. For example, Logitech with GoToResolve. Resolve. Is there a general solution planned by Microsoft? This would help a lot with support.
So not on Android yet. So if you want to do a device management, different providers have their different components within it, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is a MTROW. I'm going to show you. Yeah. So this is my environment. They're all Yealing devices, and I can log on to it, and I can see what room systems I got, and I can see what's happening within it. Now, what I think you're talking about is I can go in here and I can remote control onto this device, and if all's well, I'll see that panel in a second. Here we go. And so I can go onto this device, and I can go more, and I can start configuring everything on that device within it. So I can even go in here and tell it, and go and start playing with it. No, I can only do that on a Windows device. I can't go in and start doing remote management and console changes within this from here. If I wanted to do a go into the functionality of it, what I'd have to do is go to the Teams Admin Center to change any sort of configuration stuff. I don't have the ability to roll remote onto it. I could do it through the Pro portal. I can go inside it, and I can see I've got A30, and I can play the configuration settings, device information, any activity within it. I can start grabbing and start changing it, but I can't do anything beyond that. I can't go and start, like, is the camera working? Is it not working? I could change the profile. Think of it, we're kind of managing a mobile phone because they're running Android. I think the latest versions are 10 and 11. I think some of the new updates are coming to Android 12. So if I wanted to start doing that functionality from there, I can't go into it and like remote onto an Android device like I can a Windows device. I mean, this one I can go so far as to go into the Windows device itself, log on to the admin console, and start changing everything on it. I can start, as long as I have that authentication to get into it, I can log on to it here. So I can start playing with everything. So all I've done is I've logged on to this utilizing the actual device analytics from the vendor to start doing it. But again, I can go in here, load up any sort of the native tooling I wanted to within it, and start playing with that overall if I wanted to.
But there's no like unification on that plan, even if it's just for Windows, that you can go there from the Teams Pro portal or anything and just enter the device that way.
No, I don't have any remote management tooling built into it. I haven't even seen it being mentioned in any of the and any of the future roadmap stuff. Right now, if you want to do unit like validation on it, I could use the portal, like the Teams Admin Center, and it'll tell me whether or not it's active and working, but it doesn't give me any remote hand capability within it.
So either using multiple solutions or staying with one vendor for your devices. If you don't want to switch up solutions every time you need to.
Yeah, you don't want to manage it to different things. I'll show you what I can do on a Teams Android over M2OROA. So here's what it looks like if I want to manage an Android device, and it's a lot of the same information we saw before. So I can see it's healthy, how it calls, and start delving into what's going on within it. Likewise, I can go back into peripherals or into the meeting room itself, and I can click on it, and I can go and update it, restart it. I got to make sure that all the patch levels are working what we wanted to, make sure that, and start doing it that way if we have any updates. I can do it, but I have no way of remoting onto this device to validate it. And I think that's what the question was, like, how can I go and manage it? They'll say, and the answer is you can't. No, I can go to the third-party tools to log on to it and start logging onto it if it's a Windows device, but I don't have the ability to remote onto it to see everything in it because it's running a different OS. So I can't grab the same level of control around it. But on the flip side, we showed a second ago that I can go and I know the uptime is more. So it swings and roundabouts. I can go and I know that if I look at the overall reporting of the environment, I know that everything is working the way we expected it to. We know that, was it 96% of the time it's working great. The other percentage of the times it's probably because I played with it and broke it. Cheers, Renee, for asking that question. It's a good one. A lot of vendors have their own. I think Neat have a way of doing it, but I don't know how Neat do it. So Neat have their own tool. It's called Neat Connect, and Neat Connect allows you to jump in and start managing that stuff.
On the Android devices?
Yeah, I believe so.
I mean, there are ways to get screen sharing and stuff like that running on Android devices. I've seen somebody use his phone as his entire device, plugging it in somewhere, getting all the screens connected, remoting in from somewhere else and stuff like that. So probably they probably just focused on it a little bit more. As you said, if it's 96% uptime with you fiddling with that stuff, I guess a lot of vendors say, yeah, you don't ever need to remote in there anyway, which I don't agree with, but I can see a vendor using it as a justification not to provide that functionality.
On my demo machine, my Teams clients crashed out, so we just grab that back up and go. We'll share that out. I've got the call analytics that you want to look at on the Power BI platform.
Mm-hmm.
There was a glitch.
Always the risk with live demos.
Yeah.
While Jay is trying to fix this, anybody else have any questions for him? As he said, doesn't have to be related right now. There's one. Yep, that sounds like like a fun story.
That's great. You can within the Teams Admin Center, we can find out whether or not it is in the meeting. So if we go back to TAC, error code. So you can find out if it's in the meeting by if we click on the users and manage users, it'll tell us what's going on. So I can go and see, go in the Jason Wynn, or in this case, it could be a meeting room if I want it to be. And then I could go see view active meetings. So I could tell which meetings are actually in flight within my tenant. So you can see who started what and how many, who's working and whether or not it's in progress. And scroll over within that and find out what's happening. So it's like, it's not working. You know, we can find out what's going on, who's in what, and what conference they're going through. Wow, my machine's really not happy. This going on. Let's see.
Oh, I think you joined the wrong one here.
Oh, have I?
Yeah.
There's no point in me joining that one. Give me a second.
Also, the portal said there wasn't an active meeting, and then only the device still showed an active meeting. So it got stuck in there. Yeah, look, there's the wrong meeting. It just showed up.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah. It joined in and dropped out with one participant. Let me try to be clever. No. I was trying to drag myself into it. But yeah, if I within the Power BI, again, if you're patient with it, you can get it to go and grab it and pull that detail through. But it's just it's so resource hungry at the minute. It's not allowing me to join in. Danke.
I just gave you other account a call. Let's see if that works.
Cheers, dude.
Maybe it even starts ringing at some point.
My phone is ringing. Everything's ringing. When somebody calls me, it's like Christmas. Everything lights up. Right, that was a trip. It dropped me out and dragged me back in again, even on my home my other PC.
Okay, that's weird.
Oh, those sweet those little machines are struggling. I am moving. It's like a duck. It's like a duck in water that's trying to get this all going. So that was running. That was running in the background, but I can show you a look at this one. So I can see all the calls that have happened within that, and I can go within this cell if it lets me and drill into that. I think you have to control and click to go into it, to go in to see what's happening. And then she's just not playing ball at the minute. Everything's running really slow. But the answer is yes. I can go inside those sessions and look inside each one of those and try to find out how well it's working within it. So I should be able to go within, that's the meeting ID of what each meeting that's occurred underneath that subnet. And I can delve into that. So if I have one that's poor, or if the people give me a poor feedback information, I can go inside that and I can start finding out what's going on with the actual audio rates and everything else that's happening within it. And I should be able to go into one of these and click in. It's just not happy with me at the moment. So rather than embarrassing myself further, that's how you do it. You go into your review within the meetings. You open up a subnet and look at it, or you go within a meeting invite and look at it, or the overview, and try to understand exactly how it's joined in. And then from those ones that are triaged, you can then go and add. You can start understanding what it is and how it's behaving the way you expect it to.
Mhm.
It's not even let me leave the sharing anymore. I'm gonna steal it. Cool.
Awesome. So those Power BI dashboards that are set up there, you've set them up yourself for the way you need them, or you got them from Microsoft?
Yeah, you can go to Microsoft. If you type in Microsoft Teams Power BI, you have to use the full fat. You have to use Microsoft Power BI desktop from your Teams client to do it. And then if you want to join into the meeting, if you want to join into that information, you have to there's a README file in it. You have to save it a connector to the user profile within it. I think it's like Power BI /connectors / and again that whole string of where you have it is inside that. And once you have that, you're able to see and understand what's going on within that be able to query against Power BI to do it. It labels it as a beta connector or beta connector, but it is live, so you should be able to see what's going on within it, access it, triage it, understand, and then pull that content down that you need to.
Okay, so all of that is basically out of the box with some fiddling to get it to display.
Yep, and what I will call out though is the chap that did used to have it is no longer there. So the person that was part of that was creating all those Power BI dashboards is no longer employed by Microsoft. So I don't know about the future state of how it's all going to work. So use it and abuse it while you can.
Yeah, I guess getting it into the Pro portal would be the best choice in that case, right?
Yeah. If I have them manage and maintain it going forward, then that makes it a lot easier for me. And not only that, why do I need a compute? Why can't they be the ones responsible for pushing the compute and making sure it works all really, really well? And plus, I don't have to worry. It'd be a lot easier to demo if it were a URL rather than Power BI dashboard on my machine, which is still, I can't see anything on my Teams client anymore on that machine either. So it's absolutely it often happens on this machine. I don't know why.
Yeah, I guess that's probably part of why they're not doing it right now, because they need to put out all the compute power themselves.
Yeah.
And if it's displaying that much information, a lot of people are going to at least take a look at it, take the parts that they need and want from it, and you still have to do all the computing on the back end. So I'm guessing that's probably a cost thing and capacity thing for them a little bit.
Yeah, I like Renee's comment. They said it was working, it wasn't, but after rebooting it, it works. And that seems to be it's still the bad joke about IT though, isn't it? If it's not working, reboot it and work. And unfortunately with things like the Android devices, that tends to be about as inclusive as what we can do within it to get things to work the way we expect it to.
Yeah, I guess that's part of why he was hoping to get the view on the device itself to see, hey, is this stuck somewhere? Can I remote in, see if there's anything that shouldn't be there, and just remote reboot it and get it up and running again without potentially risking a loss of data somewhere or anything.
Yep. Again, those third-party tools will still be housed somewhere. A lot of them use AWS to grab all that content in. So they're all running independently outside of the Microsoft world to grab that content and that access into it. So you got to be a little bit careful of that. So if you're running a third-party tool, it may be running inside a data center outside of Germany. So you got to be careful about data sovereignty depending on the clients that you have to be able to make sure that you're not breaking any rules or regulations within the environment you're doing it on.
Okay. Oh, there's an unmute, so I guess Lothar, you have a
Yes.
question. Go ahead.
I have a question about installation we done a short time ago. So we have a meeting from room to room and got poor video performance. Is there any known bug in this situation?
Do you have 2 MTRs or 1
Yes.
MTR?
2 MTR on Windows
Okay.
on
And
the same switch.
and so what's the media like for the rest of the environment? So is everybody else working okay?
Yes, other meetings with external.
What about internal? So the reason why I'm asking this is what will happen is when you create a meeting or you try to make a one-to-one call between 2 devices, the media flow will be local. So your signaling traffic will all go via Microsoft because they want to manage and maintain all that, but your media traffic will be point to point. So there's something blocking it internally, which would be odd, but if there was something between the two, then it should flow. The media traffic will be from the one endpoint to another endpoint. Likewise, if I were in the office, what will happen is if it's a one-to-one meeting, that will only transverse your local LAN. So all the UDP traffic will be between the two. My guess is something's on the LAN that's stopping the UDP traffic from going between the two. Because what it normally would do is jump from HTTP to UDP and then move over just to purely to UDP to send it. But if it's not making it that way, it doesn't know because it's just sending it. And if your traffic is something blocking it between the two devices, but if you're like on the same LAN, same subnet, same everything, it should be as good as you're going to get. But my guess is something on the local LANs preventing the UDP traffic from getting from the one MTR to the other one properly.
Okay, but it's the same subnet, it's the same switch infrastructure, so it's not really clear what's the problem.
Yeah. So
but it's not known bug. Thing.
No, there's no bugs there. You should be able to have a same meeting regardless of what's going on. My guess is still that it's going to be something related to network connectivity.
Okay.
And what you can do, I'll show you.
Yeah, I actually had a case in the past where the switch, the smart switch that was between those two devices, just inspected every packet, and that just with UDP that just led to a lot of delay because it basically just touched everything, a single packet. They were SRTP packets, so it was throwing a bit of a fit and had an issue with timing stuff because it couldn't read the content because it was an encrypted package. And it just kept it it just tried a few times to open it before it just kept it sending onwards. So it might just be something that nobody was seeing because it's expected behavior, but it's still a delay in the the packages that are getting sent. So
heard of this case from a friend of mine as well who works in networking. He had a switch inspecting every single package, and that's why basically no telephone was working right.
Yeah.
Okay.
After they switched to VoIP.
Okay. Yes, but I don't think so. But there are really big Aruba switches. But it would be a look worth to.
Yeah, I mean, take a look at it. It doesn't hurt to take a look in that case. Even if it's a big switch, it doesn't necessarily mean it's somehow a bottleneck or anything, but it's creating a bottleneck because it might be trying to inspect the package and not sending it on before it is done with its inspection. And if that inspection takes a while or it fails and then it tries again, that might cause a delay. You know, it's just one thing to take a look at. Jason is currently looking up something else that might
So
I believe the my friend's case was with Cisco Enterprise switches as well. So even those big companies aren't spared of problems like these if they aren't configured right, or if something weird happens with a software update, firmware update, something like this.
Okay. Perhaps cheapest switches would be better working in this scenario. Because
in
they
some
don't try
instances they do, yes.
Yeah,
because they don't try to analyze packets.
yeah, buying a TP-Link router on Amazon finds out that it works great. And
Those old 3Com devices.
yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
And you can
just use hubs and no switches at all.
You can see, you should be able to see some of those things as well. If you're running from, again, if you're running from your local LAN to a device, and you can see what the quality is from that, and then you can go and interrogate. So your Power BI dashboard as well will pull that up. It will say that you've got network. It's like video stutter or jitter or something like that it's called, and that it will tell you what's going on within that. So it'll say this isn't behaving the way you want it to because the network's failing. And what's happening is the video quality is bad because the network quality is bad, and I've seen that a couple of times before.
Okay.
Like this is a really. So what you didn't see in the background is it loads up another one, but this will query back to Microsoft to see what you're doing, things are behaving, and it'll give you what it thinks like you are to Microsoft. But this doesn't give you the path that you're talking about. What's my video quality between the two? And that's when you would go and look at the things in flight and go in here and say, well, how are things? What's the audio? What's the network like? Whatever, and these will show up and tell you what you expect it to be.
Okay. Yes, but the telemetry data from the meeting after the meeting says good values.
Oh, it does.
Yes, it's a 2 milliseconds, 1 millisecond, 3 milliseconds round trip, and much
as
fewer
Microsoft
jitter or anything that as in a case of a meeting with an external or participant outside of the subnet. So it seems to be strange for me.
So when you raise a ticket with Microsoft, do they say buy glasses?
Okay.
They say buy. No, I'm teasing. I'm joking. Like they're not going to tell you to go buy glasses. But like it will be. I'm putting 10 euros on it that will be your problem.
Okay.
Because between the two devices, you'll be using local LAN, so they'll look at each other and say, "Where are you calling from?" I'm calling from this. Hey, I belong there too, and the connectivity would be between you and that. So it won't trombone the network. It won't hairpin between Microsoft and back because there's no point in it, because it knows that you're making a point-to-point call. Now, if you want to test it to see how it's working, well, if it's your local LAN's inspecting everything, it'll be bad full stop. But if you create a meeting and have a person outside of your network join it as well, then see what the quality of that's like. So make it a meeting and then have somebody else join it and see what the experience is like. If it's still bad, then you know that I'm still putting it down in network. You must be looking at it. It must be looking at it. But that would make all of your calls bad because everything's being inspected on the local LAN. So all of your connectivity should be bad. But it's even worse when it's everything on the local LAN's got, like I'm just talking to like another MTR. It should be like running at a gigabit.
Yes.
Yeah, you know about the local, like on a local machine, you know how to see whether or not your call analytics, so what's going on in your local machine. So if I go inside here and I say settings and say call health, you can see what your audio stuff is and all that type of stuff. There is a cheat. I'm trying to remember what the cheat is. Let's see if I can figure it out whilst I'm on the phone. Is it? No. There's a way what you can do if you like shift 5 times and then right click on the Teams client. That used to give you even more analytics. into it. And if you, one of you guys, maybe they'll figure it out. If I go in, there's a key code combination to go inside the almost a developer debug, and you can delve into that even further. But I don't know how heavily published that is. So you may have to do some digging.
Okay.
Good one though.
Yeah, but if you set up a meeting and join both devices and an external third one, everything goes through Microsoft's infrastructure in that case.
Yeah.
So you're not having you can if it's one device that's having the issue, or if it's both devices that are having the issue right now, get those connected to other meeting rooms if you have them. Just trying to figure out, is this a specific problem with a specific device? Is this a problem specific to the connection? Is this a problem? I don't know. Maybe it's a faulty cable. I don't know. Bad socket somewhere. Anything could all be the case. Especially if it's only happening in those one-to-one calls. So if you can get that. If you still have the video issues with those devices and the meeting, then it's it's a bit more open, but it's almost always video.
I have got a slide deck on this. Just trying to find it.
Yeah, it's almost always something with the network, and it's always a hassle to figure out. I mean, I had issues where the traffic went through a firewall, and the firewall was enabled to let it through, but nothing showed up in the logs. Nothing showed up in the firewall logs. Not even the packages that they get blocked or anything. We didn't find the package until at some point somebody from the vendor side of the firewall figured out, hey, did you know that that there's an interface in front of the firewall that also has its own rules and blocks stuff, and that dropped RTP packets by default, and so it didn't even get through the
it didn't traverse.
It didn't even traverse through the firewall because it got blocked on the ingress point. On the interface itself, there was also not a hardware firewall, but on that piece of hardware that had its own basically firewall, and it took us a few months to figure that one out.
So this is what I think you're talking about, right? Is that's what's causing you grief. So even though we're having a one-to-run direct media that's working, the only problem is if that piece is blocking it, then it will be bad. Does that make sense? So if that's no good, and likewise, if I'm going to a meeting and this bit, your local LAN is doing stuff to it, and it's still bad, then the only thing that's the same between this one and me traversing your local LAN and going back off to Microsoft is that I'm no longer going over a firewall, but I'm now going over the local LAN is blocking it from working.
Okay, yes.
But so like that's all down to media. So like your signaling and everything else, maybe it's saying is great. So the signaling, all the rest information from it, maybe going through and saying everything's hunky dory, but in reality it's not. And what we're doing those like these things are not working the way we want it to. And so when we're going and looking at it, it just isn't happy the way it's pulling it through. So my UDP traffic between the two isn't working. And what you may be doing is this exactly right here, where I'm trying to go through between the two, and that firewall's blocking me from doing what I wanted to do. So things are going and transversing to trying to block it, and this is blocking, so it goes UD part of the way, and then something block it, and then it's just sending it the other way. And so it's trying its best to make it work, but you're noticing that everything's not working the way you want it to. Does that make any more clear?
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
So One more little
Sure.
more common question about team rooms features is when will we get a possibility to start whiteboard without starting a meeting?
Like walk up and use it.
Yes.
If I want to walk up and start using the like on an MTR device or on a Surface Hub, or what do you mean?
MTR on Windows.
Mm.
This is what this was in a article. So
I haven't seen anything on that, because
okay.
what it will want to do is grab that content and host it somewhere, and there's nothing natively on it that allows you to. I know some vendors allow you to do it
Okay.
on Android. So like if you're using a Neat or a Yealink
Yes,
smartboard, you can
this
use
is
their.
clear. This is clear, but I read the article. There was a mentioning of this. So you can start a whiteboard, and if while I'm whiteboarding, you can start a meeting too. So actually,
Okay.
it's the other way. You have to start a meeting
Yeah.
with yourself, only without
With no attendees.
no attendees,
Yeah.
and then you can whiteboard, but you can. It's hard to get the chat and things out of the screen, and your own camera. You can do it, but it would be great to do it without a meeting.
Yeah, and we've been able to do it with Surface Hubs for a really long time, but we haven't been able to do it with MTRs as far as I'm aware. I think because it wants to be able to call upon the application,
Yes,
but it wants to
okay.
assign that to a role. The role is going to be the resource account you have got attributed to the Microsoft Teams Room account to be able to do it. So that way it has longevity to it. Because when you it will want to sign into it. I think, unless they change it, but this is the problem I've got, right? The article you're reading may be newer than information that I've been told, but I haven't seen that anywhere. But I could totally see the usage case. I could come up, start working on it, start doing it on that local machine, and then go like, actually, I need to bring John into this call, and then start bringing, and then start working together collaboratively.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Super.
Yeah. Anything else, chaps?
I was about to ask the same thing. I guess right now I don't see anybody typing. I don't see any raised hand or anybody unmuting themselves. So if anybody wants to ask Jason a question, now would be the perfect time. As you heard, it doesn't have to be about what we just discussed.
No,
Just
totally
go
not.
ahead and get your chance to talk to an MVP right now.
Do you mind if I drop this? I'll tell you. I'll see if I could drop this training article into this team or into this channel and see if this helps you out at all. If it lets me, no, I cannot. I can't. I don't have the right to drop it into a chat. But there's a Microsoft Teams Rooms training readiness information, and within that you can it gives you the ability to download that module. So I think it's module 2 of the MTR training. You have to. I think I had to sign in on a partner portal to get it. So you need to be a Microsoft partner to be able to have access to it. But once you have access to it, then you can go and download that. And that's all I was doing, is referring back to that training article that I was looking at a couple of days ago that tells you everything you need to do around the network side of things, and that will hopefully help triage what you're trying to work on.
Awesome. Thank you, Jay. I think nobody else has any questions. I think we'll end it here. As a final thing, if people want to connect to you, where can they find you?
Email me. I can load that up again, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe
sure.
not. Maybe no. Teams is dead. So J at jolly.us. So jay@jollie.us. That's my email address. I'm on Teams. It's Open Federation. By all means, reach me on Teams. If you're on what used to be known as Twitter, I'm at JAYWYNN. So either way, email and Teams is going to be way better. I don't log on to X very much at all. But by all means, whatever works for you. If email, Teams, feel free to shout out. Don't be shy. That's why I'm here to help out the community and make sure that you guys have everything you need to have. So that way, Microsoft has a good example of what good looks like.
Okay, I just grab the presentation then.
Yeah.
And just share a few of our links. We have a few links where you can keep up to date with our stuff. We'd love to get your feedback on what we're doing here. We'd love to get just, hey, if you want to talk in our community, feel free to do so. You can hand them in at Session Nice. You can just contact us. Let us know you wanna do something with us. Maybe we'll do something like today if you like it. Give us our feedback on that. We're hoping. I think Melanie's typing something right now. Maybe she's having a feedback form ready for you. So let's hope for that. And otherwise, I don't know if we're doing the next one hybrid again or if we're doing it in this format. We're going to have to discuss on that. But if we're doing anything in the office, please come and join us. We're going to communicate it early enough that something is going to happen in the office, and we're going to be happy to host you there and have you in the office and talk to you one-on-one and in the group and in the community. Yeah. If you want to join any other communities and maybe you're not that local to Nürnberg and just joining in here remote, we do have a few other user groups around Germany and with a Teams focus where you can jump in and join. You've heard about them before, so yeah. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for your questions. And if you have anything else you want to ask, now's the time. When I close this, I don't know. Jay said he has a dancing appointment later, so he's not going to be there forever. But maybe he's still going to be there for a few more minutes in case you have any questions.
I hope you wrote this down because your memory's fantastic to remember whether or not. Yeah, dancing this evening. Yeah.
Nope, I didn't have anything written down except the questions earlier. Okay.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and it was really, really good to meet up with you guys, and thank you very much.
Thank you for joining, and thank you for doing this with us. It's a pretty new format, and I'm happy you were the one we could try it out with. So thank you for that.
I don't mind being a guinea pig.
But it was a good session. Thank you very much, Jason.
Thank you very much. Auf Wiedersehen.
Bis zum nächsten Mal. See you soon.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.